So you've got an older computer and it feels like a contender for the world's slowest PC contest. But new computers cost way more than you can afford right now, so you just keep on suffering through it. Know the feeling? Well, don't despair. Let me show you how you can make it faster and put some wheels on that potato. Hello again and welcome to Tina Talks Tech. Halfway through January I started my new tech video series Tina Talks Tech, and since then I've posted 6 new videos and I've loved every minute of it. I'm really grateful for the new subscriptions and the likes, and especially for the friendly comments and support I've received so far. Okay, moving on. This time I'm going to show you how to make your older computer run a little bit faster. There's an old joke among PC techs that says the only way to make some computers faster is to put wheels on them and to find a steep hill. But usually, this is the only thing left to do after you've already exhausted all your other options. Today we're going to take that a little more figuratively than literally, no physical wheels or hills required. Even if you've got a newer PC, you might want to follow along because these settings will likely also make an overall improvement to your new PC no matter how new it is. This is my old netbook. I bought it new in 2011 and it originally came with a whole 2 GB of RAM, an Intel Atom CPU, a 300 GB hard drive and Windows 7 starter. Now from the beginning this thing was horribly slow, and even back then 2 GB of RAM was considered way too little. But somehow I managed to cope with it for about 9 years before I was able to upgrade to a new laptop. As you may or may not know, I'm a writer, and as a writer I use PCs and laptops to write, type my stories, and a lot of my books were written on this very same device. Look how tiny this keyboard is. The little keys. Oh my word! And the little 10-inch screen. 9 years! How did I manage it for so long? Now I did try to upgrade this netbook, and once I even bought a 4 GB DIMM to replace the 2 GB one. But once installed, even though the PC booted up into it, it would only still use 2 GB of the whole 4. Fortunately, I was able to return the RAM for a refund, but I was stuck with a 2 GB RAM. It's really annoying when PC manufacturers do this, isn't it? I mean, it has a full motherboard with a proper slot for RAM. So why did LG feel the need to limit the expansion of this product? Was it an act of spite? Usually the fastest way to upgrade a PC is to add more RAM, but they completely cut off that route. Adding a larger hard drive wouldn't have made any difference at all to its performance or usability. And at the time, SSDs weren't available yet like they are today. And yes, while replacing the SATA hard drive with a SATA SSD would definitely speed this thing up hardware-wise, I don't happen to have a spare one lying around right now, so I'm going to focus on the things we can do to speed this potato up without opening it or changing the existing hardware, which means we'll be looking at the software. I recently installed a standard 64-bit version of Windows 10 Pro on this little netbook, and right now in standard setup state it's terrible and barely usable. So dust off your hydro spanners and sonic screwdrivers, boys and girls, it's time to do some tweaking. Let's take a look at some of the settings we can change to make a new installation faster and more efficient than stock or basic standard. The first thing you need to do is to open Windows Explorer . Point at this PC and then right click on it . Click on Properties . The alternative way to get there is to open Settings and then click on System. But either way, once you get here, on the right hand side of the screen, or on the left depending on which version of Windows you're running, you'll see Advanced System Settings. Click on that, and this will open the System Properties window eventually. Oh God, this thing is so slow.
A few moments later.
Okay. The first thing we're going to change here is the virtual memory or swap file settings. It's under the Performance heading, right at the top of the Advanced tab. Click the Settings button. Now this tab opens the Performance Options dialog, starting with the Visual Effects tab. You can use this to make your PC even faster by stripping down the graphics demand overhead, but it will make the Windows interface bland and boring and not as nice to use. I try to avoid doing this, and for the purposes of this video I'm going to skip this. If after everything else I'm going to show you, your PC is still not fast enough to your taste, you can always go back here and change this by deselecting Custom Options or choosing Adjust for Best Performance. To adjust the system swap file, you need to click on the heading for the Advanced tab. Then below the Virtual Memory dialog, click the Change button. You'll see in the Virtual Memory dialog the checkbox for automatically managing paging file size for all drives is filled, and the settings are all grayed out. Uncheck the box by clicking on it. Now click on the radio button for custom size and type in the size you want to use for your swap file. The swap file on your PC is like an extra place Windows stashes information or data temporarily while it's running and needs to use actual RAM. Now 8 GB might sound like a lot in terms of RAM, but the rule of thumb when choosing a swap file size is roughly about 1.5 to double the size of your physical RAM in your PC. So if you have 8 GB of RAM in your PC, you should make your swap file around 16 GB. This might seem a bit excessive, and essentially you're giving up 16 GB of space on your hard drive to do it, but if you're gaming or using apps that slow your PC down a lot, like audio or video editing suites, you might consider this approach. If you're just going to use Word, for example, you could probably get away with a smaller setting, say 4 GB. What I found is that the double lap approach works best for me, but that's because I tend to use a lot of video and graphics heavy media apps. Just as a side note, back in the day when we were using Windows 98 and 2000, most desktop PCs still had RAM sizes of 512 MB or maybe 1 GB. And the conventional wisdom then was to set the swap file to a maximum of 2 GB. And any larger, and this would actually slow your PC down and even cause it to hang. Too small again, and it would have the same effect, with your PC having to run everything mostly in RAM, creating a bottleneck. Coming back to the swap file settings, you'll see there are two windows for entering two sizes, an initial size and a maximum size. The reason for this is that when Windows manages the swap file, it gets bigger and smaller depending on the demands Windows has to meet at any given time. Now you could just leave Windows to manage it for you, but it's not likely to work to the same rule we're working on here. We want to make the setting double the installed RAM size. In the case of this potato, which has 2 GB of RAM, that will be 4 GB, so I'll just type 4000 in megabytes. Under that, type the same amount into the maximum size window. The reason why you want to keep it the same size is because changing the size of the swap file while Windows runs is another area where Windows loses performance, and it will slow your PC down a tiny amount while it pauses to make the swap file bigger or smaller or to meet whatever demands arise. By keeping the swap file size constant, the theory is that it saves on time and effort. Right, when that's done, click Set and then OK. Windows will probably prompt you to restart your PC at this point to implement these changes. You can restart and come back to this window after, or you can choose Restart Later and ignore it for now. That's up to you. In the meantime, let's continue. Close the virtual memory dialog, then the Performance Options dialog, and you'll be back at the Advanced tab of the System's Properties dialog. Click on the Settings button under Startup and Recovery. Under System Startup at the top, you'll see a checkbox for Time to Display List of Operating Systems, and usually the default setting for this is 30 seconds. This only applies if you have more than one OS installed on your PC. You should uncheck it. Underneath that is another checkbox for Time to Display Recovery options when needed. This is often grayed out, but the default is also 30 seconds. If either of these is enabled, they can delay the startup of Windows every time you start or restart your PC. So if you don't uncheck them, you could reduce the seconds default settings. I suggest 3 seconds is enough to press a key if they come up. Then underneath that is a System Failure dialog, where you can get rid of the unnecessary or non-critical blue screen of death. I recommend unchecking the Write an Event to the System Log checkbox, and then the Automatically Restart checkbox. Under that, scroll through the options in the drop-down box under Write Debugging Information and select None. This will reduce the amount of times your system will reboot for no apparent reason or give you blue screens of death for minor issues, and also lessen the amount of crap Windows stores to send later to the Microsoft overlords. Then click OK and OK again. The next setting I want to show you is something I just learned recently, and it made such a difference to all the PCs in the Engler household, I can highly recommend it to you as well. Modern PCs generally have more than one computing core in their CPUs, which are managed by Windows on some obscure level. But it's not generally known that a user can actually speed their PC up by forcing Windows to use all the cores of the CPU simultaneously, or to spread the load out over all the cores or threads more evenly from the start, rather than just letting one core struggle on with the workload until it eventually lets it overflow to the others. It's like, oh wait, I also have these other cores that can help me do this. This has made a huge difference in my 4-year-old 13th gen i5 laptop. I often got frustrated with it, but now it's much more responsive and smoother in operation than before. It's also made our media player and my video editing rig much more responsive. But although these are much newer PCs with higher specs, in theory this should also make using slower, older PCs a little less painful. Now let's see how this workaround helps this old potato. Go to your search window in the taskbar and type msconfig. The File System Configuration app, or msconfig, will pop up in the list. Open it as administrator. This will open the System Configuration dialog. Click on the Boot tab. Click on the Advanced Options button. At the top, there's a checkbox that is unselected by default, and the number in the drop-down box underneath it is usually at 1. Check the checkbox. Then click on the drop-down box and select the maximum number inside it. This will allow you to use all the cores and threads your current CPU has to offer. It could be 2 or 4 or 8, and it's usually an even number. If there's only one core listed, it means your PC has a single core CPU, which is likely if you're using a really old PC. And in this case, there's nothing this trick can do to improve your PC's performance. Sorry. Once you've done that, click OK and close the dialog. Click Apply, click OK. Then if you didn't restart your PC earlier, restart it now. When it restarts, it should be noticeably faster. Using an older PC that's slow can be immensely frustrating for anyone, especially when you're trying to get something done, but end up waiting between clicks or keystrokes for the PC to actually do something and catch up. Now, if what I've shown you still doesn't do it for you and your PC is still too slow to be really usable, or if you value your health and don't want to suffer strokes or blood pressure problems from the stress, that's for you to decide. As for this old potato, for some reason it's quite a bit faster and more responsive than it was with any version of Windows 7 I tried running on it previously, with the settings and changes I've made to Windows 10. Now, aside from the things I've shown you in this video, you should also think about de-bloating or decrepifying Windows and installing a lighter, less demanding internet browser like Firefox instead of Chrome and etc. Hopefully the stuff I've shown you today will help you put some wheels on that old potato. And if you've been considering shelling out huge amounts of dosh you can't really afford to finally do that upgrade, maybe this will keep you going and help you to put it off a bit longer. That's all we have time for. Thanks again for watching. Let me know what you think of this video. Don't forget to say hi and suggest what you want to see more of. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below. Till next time, you guys take care. Bye-bye.